Hello, in this tutorial we are going to go from start to very finish making this crochet basket. It's using the waistcoat stitch. It's basically that very popular stitch you see that kind of gives a knitted appearance. It's great if you're using t-shirt yarn and absolutely heinous if you are using regular yarn. But in this case, for this basket, we will be using that very stretchy t-shirt yarn. I'll have the exact tools and yarn I used linked in my description. And otherwise, we will go ahead and get started. Also, forgive this, I haven't hid these yet, but that's an aside and a later project. To begin, I am going to find a place to start. I like to generally start right around before or after these curves. That's just personal preference though. And in this case, I am using the 4.0 millimeter crochet hook. Depending on where you source these bottoms, who knows the size of the holes? So you really just want to find a crochet hook that's going to fit in here pretty easily. It's not going to affect our stitch so much because once we pull through, I'm going to grab this 8 millimeter crochet hook, hop on here. And for this first one, I'm basically just going to do a slip stitch, drop it, and I'm just going to be coming through here. Ooh, this t-shirt yarn is the vein of my existence while also being my favorite. I don't know how you can be both. I'm going to pull it up. Now I have both on my hook. And I'm going to do that single crochet. So we're just going to pull up. Pull through. And we're going to continue in this pattern all the way around. I would try to make sure that you're keeping the tension the same. And what I mean by that is when we're switching back over, if we're getting this guy on our loop, try to have this be the same length every time. So this is going to control your tension and how large your stitches are and the appearance as far as being even. And if we start getting them to be different sizes, these stitches will be different sizes and the whole thing will look cattywampus. So whenever you bring these back through, and I know this is clunky, this is only the first row. Again, pull them down, pull through. Alright. Not to hold you hostage, I am going to go ahead and finish up this row, and we'll hop back on when we've come all the way back to this side. Okay, so we are coming up on this very last hole. So in the classic style, we're going to push through here, pull this up. I'm going to put, and something to note if you're wondering about it, I'm going from inside to out to get my crochet hook on this loop and then just pulling it up. Now we need to finish this row, and this is going to be a little bit different on account of we're not doing a regular single crochet. We're doing I know it as the waistcoat stitch. So to join our rows, we're basically going to tie this one off and jump up one. To do that, I'm going to pull my crochet hook. We don't need this guy anymore. Pull my crochet hook out. I'm going to come from outside in, hook this guy. Oop. And so now he's on the back Oh, this is important. So now I need to grab my yarn, chain one, and then instead of this one going one forward, I'm going to go through this same post right here. So we're not going through gaps. We're going through this post as where my chain is. And I'm going to push through, knowing I made it through. I want to be through this V on the end. So if you look, I'm not through my post. Now, if we look, I am splitting through this V, and I'm splitting through the V on this side. If y'all can see that. But I'm going to chain one, pull up, and then I'm just going to hook it like this. And I've now started my new row. And this will probably be a good time. I'm going to go ahead and mark this. Here. This stuff is the worst. I guess it doesn't matter if it goes through. I'm going to mark it so that I know I will be doing the same thing when I get to this last stitch. So now we've ditched our small crochet hook, but we're going through in a more annoying part because we need to go through these pretty tight posts. When doing the waistcoat stitch, always check that you're through this V, but also that you're splitting on the back. This is much more difficult with yarn, but we work with what we have. So that'll be a little bit easier. I'm going to yarn over, pull up. The other thing with this stitch, especially with just your medium worsted yarn, now instead of having our tension the same, you really want this guy to be a little bit taller and a little bit looser. It's also going to make it easier when we do go through that next row to get in the middle there. So try and keep these guys a little bit looser. We'll do one more checking. See, maybe it won't be as easy. We are on this first row, so it's kind of checking. We're through the back. We've split front. We get this a little bit looser. And that is how we are going to complete our row. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. Did I get it? Y'all. Definitely, if you're using the same type of material as me, at least for this first one, check that you're splitting these backs. Otherwise, you're going to get a just changing appearance on the inside. It won't look the same. But this will be our row one. I'll go ahead and finish this off and get back to y'all. All right, and we are back at the end of that first row. Now, I do have my safety pin right here, so I have one more to go. Just go ahead and emphasizing we're going through the post. This one's a little bit different because this is where we loop on, so you may not see the whole V, but it is still in the correct place. And now I pretty much need to do the same exact thing as before. So I'm going to get rid of this guy. I am going to take my hook out, make this a little bit long so I don't get it too tight. And if we come over here, we can kind of see, oh no, if I get this closer, you can see where this is crossing vertically and then we have our loop in that V shape. That's how we know that is going to be where we're going to push through. We are going to pull this guy through again, get it nice and tight. We're not going to do it how I just did it, where our tail is on the outside, which emphasizes an important point. Tail needs to be on the inside. Pull through. Ooh. Pull through. Now if we get this tight, this is going to, we'll hide that later. Get this tight. I'm going to chain up. And then again, instead of going one forward, I'm going to go through that same one. So if you see your chain right here, the loop right underneath that chain is where we need to go through. And in the same pattern, I'm going to go through the post once again, and it's going to get a little bit stacked. I'm looking for that V, and I want each side or each leg of this post on either side, right here and right here. Same with the front. I have my V. I don't know how to get out of the way of this camera. Here's my V. There is my hook. I'm going to pull through, get this nice and loose, yarn over, and then we will mark this guy as our stitch to come to. So our first stitch. And I guess we're just going to pull through. And that's going to be our first one. Once again, once we start going through, check your V's. When you're not also trying to explain it, it gets much easier. And this way, the reason we're doing this is as you watch it grow, you're going to see that these are going to stack perfectly on top of each other, and there's not going to be any kind of seam. Sometimes when you're building out, especially with hats and using that single crochet, it gets real easy to have a seam down the side. So by doing this, we lose the seam and we just have perfect rows. From here, you just continue and continue and continue until you've reached the height that you want, and you will come back to finish it off. One other thing to note, as far as making sure you're not missing any stitches, to keep count, if you count up all of your holes, you should have one less stitches, and that's just because of how we tied onto it and with a slip stitch and moved around. So anytime you're going through and you want to make sure that you haven't missed anything, when you've gotten to the end, starting with that stitch marker, just make a count. So for instance, there's 59 holes, I have 58 stitches, and so at the end of each row, I like to count and make sure I don't lose any stitches, especially around this kind of tying off and jumping up. It's pretty easy to, instead of going down, go in the next stitch, and that's how you're going to start losing them. But I'm going to go ahead and add my rows, and we will come back to finish this guy off. We once again come to the very end of our row. And as you can see, I added several more to get to the height that I desired. To finish this off, I'm just going to do a row of slip stitches to kind of give it a different appearance and break up this one single pattern and almost give it a finished look. To do that, I'm going to pull through here and finish off this row just like I have before every other time. And I will go ahead and chain one once again. But now, instead of going through the posts, I'm going to complete a slip stitch. So I will go, instead of going down, I'm going to go forward into that first loop, yarn over, pull through, and pull it all the way through to complete my stitch. And I will also go ahead and mark this first stitch, just so that I can keep tabs on where I started. But from there, this is so awkward to handle. I will just go through each of these open gaps, how you would normally, completing the slip stitch. Then we'll come back to see how we finish it off here momentarily. Now that we have completed this row of slip stitches, you can see it kind of gives just a finished appearance as opposed to those gaps. We are going to go ahead and tie off our basket. So I went ahead and cut my yarn. And if y'all are wondering how you get this bulkier yarn onto a threading needle, get some printer's tape or painter's tape. Make sure that is flat. I might have made this a little too small, but you're going to take this and push it right through like that, and it's on. So now, in order to tie off this basket, we are going to go ahead, come back through here. We're going to go through our original very first slip stitch. And then the trick is we want to make this appearance continual. So we're going to come back up and go through our last loop that we had tied off and pull. And as you can see, you might want to play with the size, don't make it too tight, but we now have a continuing pattern there. And again, if we pull this a little bit, we will get that size to be the same. There we go, almost. And there you are. Finally, to get rid of this, we'll just go ahead on the inside of our basket and weed it in somewhere, probably add a few knots. Oh, this stuff is great for just being an absolute pain. We can hide it like that so that you barely even notice, unless you're looking, it's almost completely invisible. And that will be our basket.